Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Good Wednesday evening to you all. I hope you guys are doing well out there this evening, and I appreciate you folks joining me tonight as we discuss multiple topics out there in the weather world. There's a lot of things to speak on, and we will speak on all of it. We'll talk about the tropics with Philippe. That will eventually, well, it's already heading north this evening, will affect Bermuda, eventually areas of Canada, and even areas of the Northeast. We'll speak on that, talk about impacts, the latest information as far as the track. We'll speak a little bit at the very beginning of the video about the ongoing severe weather, but won't stay too long on that just because this is ongoing right now, and I'll leave it to the folks that go live on Weather YouTube that do a great job out there with keeping you guys up to date during live conditions. We'll speak on the drought, and then something that could help the droughts. We'll watch some energy in the Eastern Pacific that eventually could cross into the Gulf of Mexico, maybe help with the drought conditions, but either way, we'll give you an update on the drought in this video across the Deep South and the updated information, and then we'll speak on this cold front too that's definitely going to totally clear out the atmosphere, bring that pumpkin spice latte like cold front across the eastern U.S. and really just change the atmosphere. Some of the coolest mornings, well, it will be the coolest mornings of the season coming up for almost everybody in the eastern U.S., the southeast, the northeast, the central U.S. So definitely a punch of fall-like weather coming up, and it could have some longevity to it also. So we'll speak on that. With that being said, if you folks have not subscribed, certainly consider doing that. Like the video if you like it. If you guys got anything that I can pray about or pray over, as always, please put those in the comments below so I can pray over it and so others can do so too. So let's get rolling. My clicker is having a hard time, so I'm not going to even bother it, or it just might disrupt the flow of the video. But this is Philippe right here. You see where my cursor is. Not going to try to circle it. You can see it on the screen. Very sloppy looking tropical storm. Most of the energy is finally getting north of Puerto Rico, the northern Leeward Islands. So we're thankful for that, as this has been a tricky system for you folks. We really weren't thinking this was going to bring a lot of impacts for you guys. Well, it did. Brought a lot of flooding. So luckily, this is finally moving on out. But as you can tell, a little dot on your screen right here, that's Bermuda. Philippe's heading north. Going to bring some nasty weather for you guys for about a day or so. But this is not going to bring an all-out hurricane. Nothing you guys can't handle. This is a community. Bermuda is a community that's built very well, and you guys can handle this. But you are going to get impacted by a tropical storm, Philippe. So eventually move up into Atlantic Canada, Nova Scotia, New Brunswick. I don't think it's going to affect Newfoundland that much, but it definitely could bring some impacts. Got to watch out for Maine. This will basically merge with some kind of upper trough that will become negatively tilted and just bring some wonky weather for the Northeast, that's for sure. Maybe even some snow, and we'll speak on that also. And then we got the severe weather. You can see it right here pretty well, popping off across the southern plains, and a lot of energy in the eastern Pacific. Some of this energy could cross over Mexico into the Gulf of Mexico. We'll watch for this. All right, so what's going on right now? We got a lot of severe weather. This upgraded from this morning from a slight to enhanced risk. We have an ongoing severe weather risk right now. This is popping off pretty hardcore right now. We have a lot of severe thunderstorm warnings. Large hail is probably falling in some of these storms, strong winds, and this is just ongoing right now. So this will continue. Need to watch out for the Dallas-Fort Worth area later on tonight. And this is what's going on. Enhanced risk. Tornado risk is still at a 2% risk. So this did not increase, but the wind threat, not only do you have that 30% risk of damaging winds, and some of this could be ongoing right now, you also have that 10% risk of significant damaging winds, which is 65 knots or higher. That's 75 miles per hour pretty much or higher. Hail threat is huge too. You got a 30% risk of hail, and also that 10% risk of significant hail, which is 2-inch in diameter or larger. And what's going on right now on the radar? I mean, it is popping off. It is lit up big time. You got flash flood warnings ongoing in the outlined areas in orange or yellow. And then you got the severe thunderstorm warnings that are scattered about. I mean, it's popping off just like we thought it would in western Texas, northern Texas, Oklahoma, and even got some storms rumbling through northeast and eastern sections of Texas, where we can use the rain. Got rain falling in northern Louisiana, not a lot, but we'll take all the rain we can get. And some of these showers are even trying to get into Mississippi. I'm not sure what is actually falling on the ground here in western and northern Mississippi, but hopefully some of this is making it to the ground. So that's what's going on with the severe weather. You can see all the moisture that starts to bubble up down here in Texas. That's with the ongoing storms. A lot of moist air. Flooding threat will really materialize later on in areas of southeast Oklahoma, northeast Texas, maybe even all the way up into southern Missouri. So we need to watch for a lot of rain tonight. This could be a big deal. So please be aware, if you're in those areas I just mentioned, for flash flooding. Okay. Outside of that, you can't see it well. I think you'll be able to see it a lot better when we wake up tomorrow morning. But let's see if we can get this thing to work right. But if you look up here, you can see a flow that's moving in from the northwest to the southeast, just like this. This is our next upper trough that's going to move through. This upper trough is weakening, that's sparking all this severe weather. This is actually we already got a draped boundary over this region. So everybody on this side that I'm checking has already got some pretty nice, more comfortable air throughout the day. This morning you woke up to some cooler temperatures. But this isn't the cold front that's going to really cool us down. There's one up here that you got a cold front associated with this upper trough, this deep digging trough, and this is really going to surge back down into here and really reinforce the cooler temperatures. And I think like Nebraska, the Dakotas, you're going to get sub-freezing temperatures, your first freeze of the fall season. So what the cooler temperatures you experienced today, guys, that wasn't the cold front. That's just the associated cold front with this upper trough that's already moved through. So we look at temperatures, and you're going to be able to see this boundary pretty well. You'll start off tomorrow morning. A nice day to warm up well into the 70s across the middle of the country. It's already cooling down up here in North Dakota, northern areas of Minnesota, only 50s and 40s for highs. And then we're getting into a Friday morning, next couple days, and look at these temperatures. You're starting to get sub-freezing temperatures in Montana, the western Dakotas, Wyoming, even getting into frost criteria into northern and northwest Nebraska. Cooler temperatures starting to ooze down into the southern sections of the lower 48, so the Mississippi Valley, waking up to the 40s Friday morning. Chicago, much chillier. Central Illinois, Iowa, getting into the low 40s. And then these are just high temperatures, around high temperatures for Friday. Cooler temperatures, more like a fall day for sure. I mean, only getting into the 40s, maybe just the mid 40s in northern Wisconsin, the UP of Michigan. You're starting to get deeper where you can pretty much say goodbye to those warmer temperatures. I hope you enjoyed this last couple weeks up here in this part of the country because, I'm not saying you might not warm up again because you could, but, your days are numbered as far as these warmer temperatures. These are high temperatures, around high temperatures based off the blend of all models. Friday, much cooler conditions. You're hanging on to these warmer temperatures for dear life down here. Still a very pleasant day across the Mississippi Valley. Only into the 70s and 80s down into Mississippi, 70s in Arkansas. But these are low temperatures for our Saturday morning. Look at this. You're getting almost down to the 40s in Dallas, well into the 40s in Amarillo, low 40s, maybe upper 30s around the Oklahoma City, Tulsa region. You get into Kansas, you're well into the 30s. And then this is when you start to get into the frost areas in Kansas, up into Nebraska. Most of the state of Nebraska could have a chance to get below freezing. Same thing into the Dakotas. Kansas City into the upper 30s, potentially Columbus, same way. A chilly start to your weekend, Saturday morning for sure, across the heart of the country. The Great Plains, the High Plains, the upper Midwest, 40s, dipping down here. Then we look at your high temperatures for Saturday. It starts to warm back up, not quite as chilly for the High Plains, but a nice, pleasant day where temperatures will struggle to get into the 70s as far south as the Dallas-Fort Worth area. But I think the core of this cold air with this cold front, this associated upper trough, begins to shift further to the east. But, still you look at Sunday morning and still a chilly morning. You'll need a coat for sure. Heading out to church, any outdoor activities, it'll be very chilly across these areas. So let's go on and look at our folks in the eastern U.S., including the southeast, things like that. This is going to be a cold front that makes it all the way down to Florida, guys. So we get into Friday morning. Nothing unusual. Warmer than average low temperatures. Okay. Hanging on to those warmer than average temperatures for dear life. This cold front will continue to make a move on. Still a nice day if you're a warm weather fan, to the 80s, upper 70s across the southeast. Nothing too bad at all. Just slightly above average. You start to get into your Saturday morning. The cold front is on the move. I would say the cold front is going to be draped across the deep south, I would say like states like Georgia, the northern half of Georgia Saturday morning could be in the 40s in the mountains of North Georgia, and then the southeast and southern half will still be in the 60s. So this cold front will be on the move. Places like Charlotte to Columbia to Augusta, Atlanta up to Raleigh, Richmond, Virginia, Washington, D.C. This cold front will move throughout the morning hours of Saturday. Getting into Saturday afternoon, you'll feel a shift in the atmosphere, but you're going to wake up to some very chilly conditions into Kentucky, Tennessee, northern Alabama, northern Mississippi, up into the Ohio River Valley. But it's really, I mean, look at your high temperatures for Saturday, hanging on to those warmer temperatures in Florida for dear life. But I mean, only the 60s and 70s in the Carolinas. Same thing for the Deep South. I mean, only highs in the 50s. It's going to feel like football out there for the Big Ten football. You folks in the Ohio Valley, the Great Lakes region, it'll be your first chilly Saturday in the fall for sure. And then we move into our Sunday morning, and then this is when the temperatures, a lot of people will see their first sub 50 degree temperatures of the fall season. In fact, I would bet on areas of the panhandle of Florida getting below 50 degrees in certain areas for sure. But, you know, you start to see some sub 60 degree temperatures almost all the way down. I mean, almost all the way down to Tampa Bay. But, areas like Gainesville will certainly get into the 50s just because they're tucked more inland. Jacksonville down to 60 degrees, maybe even 59, 58. And then we look at high temperatures for our Sunday, man, a beautiful fall-like day across the eastern U.S. I mean, southeast. I mean, just your first, Saturday and Sunday will be your first really true fall-like day where you'll wake up and, you know, you're going to still even feel a nip in the air in the middle of the day for a lot of folks. And then you look at low temperatures Monday morning and another chilly morning. You'll need your jacket to kick off next week. And then the temperatures begin to moderate. But I really think the chilly mornings could linger into next week also. So, another great way to look at this cold front is the precipitation water values. You know, they're not very high across the eastern U.S. right now anyways, which is expected this time of the year. But think of all this brown you see. That is very dry air. And then kind of the greens and certainly the yellows and the reds, that is more moist air. Precipitation values get well below a quarter inch in certain areas and a half an inch. And look as basically this moist air, relatively moist air, gets replaced with, chapstick air, very dry air. This punch of dry air behind this cold front really just comes in and just makes a beeline towards the southeast and makes it all the way down to like Orlando, Florida, all the way down to Tampa Bay. This will be a nice fall cold front. And really looking ahead, guys, the 6 to 10 day temperature outlook through the 10th through the 14th of October. Below average temperatures stick around for like the mid-Atlantic areas of the Northeast and around near normal for the Southeast, which is nice for this time of the year. You know, you look at the 8 to 14 day outlook, which takes us clear through the 18th of October, 12th through the 18th, still just showing near normal for the Eastern U.S. and, you know, slight chance of above average for Texas, but I mean, there's no huge signal for big time heat. I can tell you that. There really isn't. So, that's really all I got with the cold front. Hope that helps. Definitely some people will get below 40 degrees when you start to enter frost criteria for sure. This is Philippe. Philippe is a sloppy-looking tropical storm. Like I mentioned, just a closer look at it. Puerto Rico down here. Bermuda right here. You'll start to see the impacts from this as early as tomorrow. Okay, if you look at the latest cone, it is a 40-mile-per-hour tropical storm. I mean, this might weaken into a depression. It could. This is no longer forecast to become, well, yeah, it is. It could briefly become a 60-mile-per-hour tropical storm, but I wouldn't be surprised if they lower the peak intensity of this. But Bermuda, you already got tropical storm warnings up. Okay, we're expecting this to be right around this region Thursday at 2 p.m., so tomorrow afternoon. And then by the time you're getting into 2 p.m. Friday, the core of Philippe is already passing north, so it's going to start to gain a lot of speed. I would say that the conditions get their worst probably sometime in the middle of the night tomorrow night and Friday morning for Bermuda. Gusty winds, I don't know how your local news network works in Bermuda. Not sure, but you're definitely going to get some gusty winds, tropical storm force conditions briefly. But like I said, I know that's a very vague information, but I don't think it's anything you guys can't handle. I really don't. But this could strengthen into a 60-mile-per-hour tropical storm. At this point, sometime at the beginning of the weekend, it loses its tropical characteristics. Becomes post-tropical, gets a lot of dry air wrapped into it, and saying it's going to make a landfall. Man, this picks up a lot of speed. This thing is going to be booking it for you folks in New Brunswick, Nova Scotia, Atlantic Canada in general. This thing's going to be moving fast. So it's going to move in and it's going to move out quick. But it's going to pack a punch. I think that you guys start to feel most of the impacts as early as Saturday afternoon, but will make landfall sometime Saturday evening, I imagine. Somewhere in New Brunswick, maybe Nova Scotia, maybe the down east areas of Maine, but, the impacts will be felt outside of the actual center. We know that, just like with Lee. So there's two things going on here on your screen. One thing, you got this upper trough digging in, and I'll show a better way to look at this here in a second, but you got the energy associated with the Philippe. The GFS is confused at where the actual dominant low pressure is. It has it way over here, but it could be way over here. But this moves in, and this is it around Saturday early afternoon. Low pressure's here, but you already got this rain shield moving into Maine, moving into western Nova Scotia, starting to move into the St. John. All this moisture's getting pushed into the Bay of Fundy, and you're already seeing impacts Saturday for sure. And then this really starts to sniff out landfall sometime Saturday evening, and brings a pretty stout precipitation shield with it. Some gusty winds. I think the strongest of the winds is going to be on the right side of the system, so the east side of the system. That means areas like Nova Scotia, Yarmouth, you folks, Cape Sable, the St. John region. I think you're going to get some gusty, wind-driven rain out here for sure. You got this upper trough that's going to become negatively tilted. This is going to combine rain for the northeast and the moisture from Philippe. And, it's just going to be a mess for the Northeast, I really think. Another soggy weekend for the Northeast, especially if you live New York City, points north and Northeast. Man, we could really use some of this rain down here in the Southeast. I haven't received rain in my location in Columbia since September 17th. So I think that it's possible we can go almost a month without rain in certain areas. Some areas have already went that long. But we'll get to that here in a second. But GFS has us making landfall sometime Saturday evening, then pulls up into Canada, and then whatever the energy's left over of it, look at the blue. We'll speak on this here in a second. But this really just turns into just a full mid-level cyclone, completely has no tropical characteristics with it, and turns into another beast up there in Canada, where areas of Canada could certainly see some early season snow. Here comes the European, same sort of deal, but the European wants this to make a track a little bit further east, almost making some kind of landfall near Yarmouth, Nova Scotia, then makes another landfall close to St. John, New Brunswick, and moves in, pushes a lot of moisture. You guys will already be seeing the impacts of this same time frame, Saturday afternoon, continues to push a lot of moisture throughout the afternoon, evening, overnight, and then this is on out by the time we're waking up Sunday morning with a lot of dry, cooler air moving in behind it. Okay, so the reason this is getting steered the way it's getting steered, and I hope my clicker works for us, and you remember what I talked about, high pressure and low pressure, how the steering works around it. We talked about this a ton with Lee. All right, we know the currents go like this around this high pressure, right? Low pressure currents go like this. Steering currents go just like that. So this is Philippe right here, right? And we know that Philippe is heading this way. All right, so we go on and get this off your screen here, and we'll keep this rolling. So watch what happens. This ridge, yes, it kind of pushes itself back north, but it doesn't go anywhere. It doesn't lose its strength. It's still up there in the North Atlantic. We got big-time Canadian blocking in place. This begins to somewhat merge and really, really feel the tug of this huge upper trough that's going to bring all that cool weather across the eastern U.S. So Philippe is somewhere in here, right here. So at this point, okay, Philippe being somewhere in here, all right, here's the ridging right here. Remember what I talked about? Steering currents going like this, and then you got a pull down just like this with the steering going like this. So it's going to take whatever Lee is at this point, and basically it can't go like this. It can't go against this ridging. All right, so it's getting pulled kind of in between both of these currents. Now, it's not going to make landfall, I don't think, that far into Maine, but you get what I'm saying, because the ridging is still moving a little bit, so it's going to make kind of go more so like this. But that's what's going on. I hope that makes sense for you folks that tune in a lot with Lee. I think a lot of people understood what I was explaining, but it's kind of the same deal. You got ridging on top of the storm. It's making this go a little bit further west. It's kind of preventing this to escape out to sea. This is something I want to watch going forward. The consistent blocking up here in North Atlantic. This allows for these low pressures that I think are inevitably going to form in the East Coast to sometimes really slow down and bomb out. And that's when we get these intense blizzards for the Northeast, even areas of Nova Scotia and areas of Atlantic Canada. This is a pattern I want to watch going forward, but we're not going to speak on that right now, a bunch of what ifs. But as far as rainfall for the Northeast, we have a trough that goes negatively tilted. This is going to provide tons of forcing for a lot of rain across areas of New York State, Vermont, New Hampshire, especially Vermont, Western Mass, Western Connecticut, into the Adirondacks, the valleys of New York State. A lot of rain, a couple inches of rain. And then we actually have the main push of rain. This is just the Euro from Philippe. And you have kind of a gap in between. Somebody might luck out and not get a whole lot of rain. We don't really need the rain up here. But this rain right into here is from Philippe. So it brings a few inches of rain into Maine. And then we got rain associated with this upper trough that's becoming negatively tilted, becoming a powerful trough right here over the Northeast. So two kind of features here. Now we look at Canada, which I know you guys measure your rain in millimeters. I can't talk. So going for around 53 millimeters, just I'm getting tongue twisted. Just west of St. John, somewhere between 30 or 50. The Yarmouth area, the Europeans saying 45 millimeters, and a good bit of rain of 30 to 40 or so, and to a little bit deeper into Nova Scotia, to a little bit further east in Nova Scotia. But it's a pretty stout cutoff. It doesn't show a lot of rain in Prince Edward Island at all. So it does show a lot of rain into New Brunswick. But, at the same time, it's not a ton. Now, if you convert this to inches, which is something I'm a lot more familiar with, obviously, being in America, it just is converted to about 1 to 2 inches of rain. So it doesn't show a whole lot of rain, but this could go back and forth. The GFS is a little different, but not a whole lot different. As far as wind speeds, the European is really saying most of the winds are going to stay more so on the east side of the system. So this kind of keeps most of the really strong winds away from Maine. But on the European, max wind gusts, down east areas of Maine, maybe 30 to 40 miles per hour, maybe the same kind of gust up in Caribou. Nothing too serious. Now you go over to Canada, okay? As far as wind gusts, you could get 60, 70 mile per hour wind gusts into St. John based off the European model. The Yarmouth area, 40 to 50 mile per hour wind gusts. All of the southern coastline of Nova Scotia, you could get a swath of tropical storm force conditions into your region. Okay, I know you measure in kilometers per hour, so this is what it looks like in kilometers. But in general, this is just tropical storm force conditions, not sustained, but some gusts could reach that. Prince Edward Island, all of Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, you guys could certainly see very gusty conditions. But you're not going to get sustained 60 mile per hour winds. I'm not going to guarantee that, but you're going to get some gusts that can approach that, which of course can knock down some trees, blow down some big branches, affect the power source and everything, like blow down some power lines. But it's hard to compare this to any storm. I want to say this. I think this is going to be just kind of related to like a fast moving nor'easter for you folks. I really do. But you certainly need to be prepared for this system, as it's going to move in, kind of come up on you quick, and then move on out very fast. But these are predicted winds for you folks. But that's it on that. I want to mention, once Philippe gets well up into Canada, look at this backside cold air that gets wrapped around this low that's up here in Canada. And you got snow falling. You got snow falling in areas of, brain farting here, of like the Adirondacks of New York State. You see the blue showing up. These are higher elevations the Adirondacks are. And look down here in West Virginia. Stout northwest flow, enough cold air. And I think we're going to have an opportunity for some snowage. which is basically the fall foliage mixed with the white of the snow, which is beautiful. If you don't think that's beautiful, I don't know what to tell you. I think it's awesome when you have the colorful fall foliage mixed with a dusting of snow. We could certainly have that as we're getting into the later half of the weekend, as we might can get some of this rain to mix with some snow. But man, the GFS is going all in on the snow further up in Canada, so we'll watch that. But if we look at the European ensemble from this, it shows a light dusting, and this is just the ensemble too, so it's always going to be more conservative. Shows a light dusting into the higher elevations of West Virginia and the Adirondacks of northern New York State. So this is something to watch. This would make for some pretty pictures. I would love to live somewhere where you get peak fall foliage and you get your first technical snowfall of the year around that time. I'm trying to convince my wife to move to the mountains early. But of course, I want to stay close to our family, things like that. But we plan on retiring in the mountains for sure whenever we can retire. So, but moving forward to the drought. The thing that stinks about the drought is this was released last Thursday, September the 28th. So certain areas are even worse conditions. I expect some of this D4 conditions, which is the exceptional drought, that's probably gotten expanded a little bit more throughout southern Mississippi. But hopefully we can get some rain into southern sections of Louisiana. I know some rain is falling in some of these areas that do have a severe or extreme drought. We're going to get a lot of rain here in northern Texas over the next several hours, maybe too much, too fast. But I think this will help with the drought at least. We kind of take what we can get in these situations. Now, this is where it's really off. All right, September 26th, this was updated. So it was updated a while back, over a week ago. So this isn't new information, unfortunately. But I expect the next update, which will probably be issued tomorrow, the next day, for the drought conditions to worsen big time in the Carolinas and areas of Georgia and even Alabama. Like I said, here in my neck of the woods, right here in the Midlands of South Carolina, they're just saying we're not even abnormally dry. Well, we're very dry. We haven't seen rain since September 17th. Luckily, on that day, it rained like 2.5 inches, so that really helped us. But there's a lot of areas that are really dry, and we're having some drought issues in Virginia that's affecting some of the trees up there with the fall foliage too. One thing that could potentially help us with the drought, that's the last thing we'll speak on, is some energy that could eventually move out of the Eastern Pacific and sneak into the Gulf of Mexico. And here it is. This is getting into about a week from today, October 11th. And here's the moisture. We got some moisture in the Gulf of Mexico. Could this sneak into the southeast? Let's hope so, without any tropical issues like a tropical storm. Let's hope we can get it a good old-fashioned way. But I really think that this could introduce a very rainy period for somebody in the southeast. This is getting into like 7, 8, 9 days from now. But this is something I want to watch right down here. That's some tropical energy that could get into the Gulf of Mexico. The European kind of shows it too. Shows it a little bit more delayed, but has a big plume of moisture into the Gulf of Mexico about 8 days from now. Pushes it right over Florida. And yeah, so we'll have to watch for that. Unfortunately, this is rainfall predicted from the blend of all models through the next 7 days. And guys, I mean, Mississippi, Alabama, Tennessee, you guys are looking a little better, but this ain't enough. We need more rain than this. But look at our folks here in the Carolinas and Georgia. Little, if any, rain predicted over the next 7 days. The good news is after this period, things could switch to more of a rainier pattern. But of course, the further out we get, the more into an unreliable time period we get. We need rain in the southeast. I don't speak on droughts a lot. I really don't. I should speak on it more. But this is becoming an issue across the deep south, and it's affecting a lot of things. One thing it's going to certainly affect is like the fall foliage, which is the least of our concerns. Fall foliage doesn't really affect anybody's daily life, but of course crops, agriculture, things like that, it certainly affects, and it becomes an issue if it gets too bad. So we need some rain. We need a good widespread rainmaker across the southeast. The good news is we got an El Nino, all right? So it's inevitable that we're going to get an active storm track across the southeast. It's just, when are we going to flip to that really active storm track? So that's all I got, guys. Thank y'all for tuning in. God bless all y'all, and I'll talk to you in the morning.